On the journey tracking wild boars along the Mediterranean region, the first stop is Kulsura Hill, a land heavily ravaged by beasts hiding in the thickets, causing damage worth millions of dollars. Leading the hunting team is Thomas, a man famed for his ability to take down wild boars with a single bullet. The sky hasn't fully brightened yet. A light mist still clings to the hillside, but his team is already in position. The hunting dogs sniff through each patch of grass, weaving through dense trees to search for any remaining traces. Thomas rushes toward the sound. Then, from within the thick bushes, that familiar dark figure appears, frantically trying to flee. Without hesitation, Thomas steadies his rifle, waits for it to fully reveal itself, then pulls the trigger. A perfect shot galore, a heavy boar collapses on the spot. A decisive shot, glorious achievement. And the hunting team has saved Kulsura from being torn apart by the claws and tusks of these destructive beasts. Lucky led a small team, driving rugged off-road vehicles through winding trails deep into the thick forest. As soon as they arrived, they spread out to track signs of their prey. While Lucky was closing in on a suspicious area, a gunshot suddenly rang out from a teammate. Just moments later, a familiar dark figure darted past. He gripped his rifle tightly, calmly holding the weapon. A series of shots rang out in quick succession, each one tracing the creature's every step until it finally collapsed on the cold forest floor. If it were you, would you stay calm in a life-or-death situation like that? Respect to Lucky in that moment. He was more than a hunter. He was a cold-blooded warrior in the depths of the French wilderness. Continuing our journey from the vast Campine forest, we headed southeast into the rugged terrain of southern Italy, Calabria, where wild boars exploit the mountainous landscape to hide and continue wreaking havoc on crops. At 6 a.m., Johnny's team, led by Thomas's trusted comrade, arrived and quietly spread out, blending into the terrain while waiting for the right moment. As he observed the opposite hillside, Johnny suddenly spotted a lone wild boar, casually foraging, completely unaware it had stepped in the crosshairs. Calmly, he chambered round, steadied his aim, and pulled the trigger. A clean, sharp shot rang out. The boar dropped instantly. For Johnny, there was no need for a chase or struggle. Just one well-timed decision was enough to make the beast fall before man. This time, Cade's team came fully prepared, armed with every tool and a fierce determination to put an end to the beast's destruction. They didn't choose open clearings or easy vantage points. Instead, they moved silently into the heart of the forest, where thick trunks and tangled branches form a natural maze of traps. And just as they had anticipated, within minutes, a shadowy figure began to emerge in the distance. As the boar crept closer, a clean shot rang out. It dropped instantly, without a chance to react. Buck's team, accompanied by a pack of seasoned hunting dogs, was combing through thick brush, hot on the trail of wild boars. After 30 minutes of tracking, a thunderous burst of barking erupted near the grassy forest edge. The dogs had found their target, a massive beast weighing nearly 400 pounds. Sensing a brief opening, the monstrous boar broke from the encirclement, charging through the trees like a storm. But it was too late. With a creature of that size, even one escape could mean the destruction of an entire field.
For the past 2 weeks, villagers in a rural region of Turkey have been constantly complaining about wild boars destroying their crops and even attacking livestock at night. Despite trying various traditional methods, the problem persisted. Faced with this urgent situation, our hunting team teamed up with the locals to take action. And so began the chase for these destructive invaders. This would be our first ambush of the day. We had just gotten into position when the first dark shapes started to emerge from the distance. startled by the gunshot. The boar bolted, crashing through the underbrush trying to escape. After several more rounds, it finally collapsed onto the forest floor, and I couldn't help but celebrate the moment. Following that first success,
Our team advanced the mountain slope.
we immediately got into position, constantly adjusting our scopes as the herd moved unpredictably through the rough terrain. The first shots were fired from a considerable distance, a real challenge. But thanks to sharp focus and accurate shooting, we managed to bring down several targets in the blink of an eye. We had only moved a short distance when suddenly, another familiar silhouette appeared. The moment it poked out from the brush,
Iffy red, quick, clean.
and precise. Not far from there,
Another wild boar darted out.
I stood my ground, gripped the rifle tightly, and opened fire. Unfortunately, my first shot missed.
J20 the animal a chance to sprint away.
Luckily, my hunting partner had been waiting further down the slope. Right beside us, another friend fired and sent a second boar tumbling to the ground. The loud barking of our hunting dogs led us to another boar trying to hide. But this one wouldn't go down easy.
Le VN d'instinct driven.
It slipped through narrow gaps and dense foliage. Our team opened fire, but the boar kept weaving through the undergrowth.
Toute manœuvrine et vribulet. In the herd managed to escape.
Leaving us behind, frustrated and regretful. We pressed on over rugged, rocky trails, making our way toward the mountain peak. Scanning the landscape ahead, we spotted a herd of boars charging downhill. Determined not to let them get away, we quickly spread out and blocked off key escape routes. As soon as the boars broke from the trees, my buddy and I opened fire.
Letting off a storm of bullets.
Despite their frantic dash, two of them fell almost instantly. We were certain more wild boars were still hiding nearby. The team kept searching. Suddenly, under fierce pursuit by our dogs. A huge boar burst from the bushes, startling everyone. But this was no ordinary prey. It was strong, fast, and surprisingly agile. One final burst, then it collapsed in the middle of the forest, bringing an end to a truly intense encounter.
I hadn't planned to go hunting, but the moment I set foot in Transanubia and saw the forest edge fields torn up overnight, the hunter's blood in me instantly boiled. The locals weren't surprised. They were used to preparing their guns every rainy season to go clean up. Seeing my excitement, they simply asked, "You in?" I nodded without hesitation, slung my backpack, shouldered my gun, and joined the team. That morning, the sun was shining. The forest was dense, filled with tangled dry branches. Every step had to be cautious because behind any bush could be open ground, or a 100-kilo wild boar lying in ambush. Luckily, I was with locals, people who knew the forest paths like the back of their hand, understood the prey's habits and the spots they frequented. All I had to do was stick close behind and keep a steady grip on the trigger. There was the first target had appeared. It came charging down a slope, moving fast. I raised my gun without a moment's hesitation. The distance was perfect, and the timing couldn't be better. I took a deep breath and pulled the trigger. As expected, the boar was hit and tumbled down a slope. A smooth start, but when hunting, overconfidence is your worst enemy. While lying in ambush in the bush, I suddenly heard a strike. My heart pounded like it wanted to leap out of my chest. The gun barrel was ready. The moment the boar burst out of the bushes, I instinctively pulled the trigger. That surprise encounter sent my adrenaline through the roof. No matter how many hunts I've been on, that feeling never fades. We kept moving and scanning the surrounding area. The barking of the hunting dogs led me to another thick bush. I knew there was another boar hiding in there. The gun was loaded again. When its pointed snout poked out, I didn't hesitate. Bang! A single shot, and it dropped instantly. The path into the bush was tough, requiring careful maneuvering through tight spaces. But when I reached it and saw the massive boar lying still in the grass, I just smiled. Every effort had been worth it. And in the quiet stillness of the late afternoon woods, I once again heard the rustle of dry leaves. A wild boar, no doubt about it. Sure enough, just seconds later, a dark figure appeared. Without hesitation, I raised my gun, aimed, and fired in a split second. The boar dropped on the spot, a satisfying redemption for the frustrating miss earlier. Still not quite satisfied with the day's take, on the way back, I lingered near a small trail cutting through the forest. Who knows? Maybe the final moments would bring another surprise encounter. And sure enough, as if to indulge me, another wild boar appeared. Through the scope, I tracked its every movement. I waited until it stepped into the ideal range. A perfect shot. The boar collapsed right at the roadside. Though today's trip was exhausting and intense, it ended in the most complete and satisfying way possible. The night before the hunt, we sat beside a small fire inside a rickety wooden shack on the edge of the forest. News about wild boars tearing through the villagers' crops had been growing more frequent. Those animals were becoming bolder, more cunning. That was why we made the decision to leave the safety behind bringing our rifles, supplies, and a sharpened sense of caution, stepping into a hunt that promised danger at every turn. Like always, we started by carefully surveying the terrain. This time, the forest's edge, the fragile boundary between open land and dense woods, was the spot we chose for the ambush. I stood just outside, eyes locked onto the dense wall of trees ahead. Early morning is still prime feeding time for boars, so it didn't take long before a large, dark-colored male appeared. It had no idea it was being watched. Step by step, it moved closer, completely unaware like it owned the place. Then again, I had been sitting dead still for nearly 30 minutes, like part of the landscape. I gripped my rifle tight and aimed just behind its front shoulder. One deep breath, finger on the trigger. The boar dropped almost instantly. That shot was a kill shot, maybe heart, maybe lungs, I couldn't say for sure. But I knew it didn't feel pain for long. Moving closer, I crouched behind a bush near the forest edge. Good cover, good view, but the downside was shifting winds and sharper ears for the boars. Even with a group right in front of me, I didn't dare make a sudden move. Finger resting gently on the trigger. Boom! One down, the rest scattered. That's fine. I'll be seeing them again deep in the woods. We pushed deeper into the forest. Not even 5 minutes in, boom, a whole herd of wild boars suddenly appeared. They were too fast. The angle was bad. After a few missed shots, we gave up the chase. Deeper still, the vibe was now a mix of excitement and tension. As I waited behind a tree, another boar showed up about 30 feet away. No time to think. I raised the gun and fired. Quick and clean. Another one down. Still moving. Still searching. Then I heard the hunting dogs barking like crazy not far off. I followed the noise and came to a narrow game trail, thick bushes on both sides. The boar could charge out from anywhere, any direction. I stayed sharp. But wait, not that way. Something, maybe sound, maybe instinct, made me spin around fast. Rifle up. Seconds later, it showed up. One clean shot, right on cue. The boar dropped in the middle of the trail. Motionless. Was it skill? Instinct? I don't know. Maybe both. But I do know that one tiny rustle saved the moment. And believe it or not, I ran into another group of wild boars. The adrenaline had barely left my system from earlier, and now it hit me all over again. I only had a few seconds to fire before they shifted direction and vanished. I managed to hit at least one. Not the best outcome, but far from the worst. I was standing near the roadside, eyes locked on the trail ahead where the boars were darting across. A few shots rang out. Oh my God, what have these wild boars done? The scene in front of us is a complete disaster. My teammates and I couldn't help but feel both sorrow and anger at the destruction they caused. We knew that if we didn't act quickly, the damage would only get worse. That's why our entire hunting team set out with one mission: to track down these destroyers, not just to protect the crops, but to restore peace for ourselves and our community. Early in the morning, we made our way to the forest right next to our village. Having hunted together for years, we didn't need to say a word. Everyone instinctively moved into position. I began searching for signs of the wild boars. Suddenly, a teammate shouted from a distance. The target was closing in. And sure enough, thanks to our preparation, I aimed and fired in a split second. The shot hit home. The boar slid across the ground and collapsed shortly after. Before we could even savor the win, I sensed something strange. Amidst the lush green trees, a dark blur moved past. My hunting instincts kicked in immediately. I raised my gun, eyes locked in, ready to fire at any moment. Bang! The startled boar tried to dodge, but it was too late. The bullet hit clean. It stumbled, thrashed around briefly, and then went still. As soon as I radioed in the sighting, Orson swiftly moved into an intercept position. And just like that, the moment the boar appeared, he didn't hesitate. One clean shot from instinct alone, a quick and decisive end. The boar never had a chance to escape. Knowing that wild boars often move in herds, we were sure more were hiding nearby, so we began sweeping the area carefully. Just as we predicted, the herd emerged under pressure. I kept my cool, tightened my grip on the gun, eyes fixed on the target. Then bang. A precise, clean shot dropped one of them right where it stood. After a brief 10-minute break, we pressed deeper into the forest. The dense undergrowth created a natural barrier, masking any movement inside. But nothing escapes our four-legged warriors. Our dogs quickly picked up a fresh trail. We moved into position without delay, held steady, and aimed with care. The gunfire cracked through the forest. Just like that, another boar dropped not far from us. The echo of gunfire shook the area, scattering the herd in all directions. Some nearby boars dashed off in panic. But we weren't about to let them get away that easily. I quickly readjusted, locked in on a runner, and squeezed the trigger. Another wild boar dropped instantly. In just a few minutes, we added another trophy to the day's success. Just as we were about to call it a day, our dogs suddenly went wild with barking. From deep in the woods, a massive black figure came charging out at lightning speed. It was him. Not giving a chance to fight back, I opened fire immediately. Several shots rang out, target down.